Okay, moving on to things that can affect the demand for beef. So demand refers to consumers' desire to purchase the product or beef and services at a given price. So the desire of the public basically and consumers who want to buy your product. So factors that can affect demand of beef is protein substitutes. Chicken and pork have gained popularity at the cost of red meat. Beef is usually more expensive, and as a result, demand has dropped as consumers opt for alternative proteins. So they've been cheaper. Chicken is definitely cheaper than beef, so that can affect the demand for beef. If everyone's buying chicken and nobody's buying beef, then that's obviously going to affect how many people want to buy beef. The popularity of seafood in recent years has also affected the demand of beef. So you guys have much more of a Southeast Asian influence on food available here, more so than places I've been to in Europe. You have a lot of sushi, for example, and these sort of easier access seafood shops that we don't really get back home has also affected the demand for beef here in Australia. This might sound a bit daft, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it. We have an aging population, okay? The baby boomer generation is moving into retirement, and during the coming decades, an increasing proportion of Australians will fall under the elderly demographic, a demographic that consumes less meat than the adult demographic. So traditionally, old people don't eat a lot of red meat. One cause of the reduction in red meat with age is apparent in recent research into the healthy aging, revealing consumers over 65 are cutting down on red meat due to health concerns and functional arguments such as ease of chewing and swallowing. So that might sound a bit daft, but I mean, it makes sense. If I'm over 65, I'm in my 80s and I've got no teeth in my head, I've got fake teeth, false teeth, I don't want to be chewing down on a steak. Not at all. I mean, I want to be eating soup or, chicken maybe to a degree. I don't want to be chewing on a steak. That's just not going to be good for me. And then health concerns as well. We'll talk about it in a little second, but there's a growing awareness that perhaps eating a lot of red meat can cause things like colon cancer and a bunch of different health concerns. So, when you get to your twilight years, you maybe want to extend the amount of years you have on the planet. You don't want to be eating, cheeseburgers for every day, every meal. That's not going to be good for you. And a further motivation for elderly persons to eat less red meat is the associated high costs. We've just spoken about that already. In Australia, research shows red meat to be a luxury good, a type of good where demand is particularly sensitive to price. Retirees on a fixed pension with lower disposable income are less willing to purchase luxury goods. So, if you are retiring, for example, this makes sense as well. I don't have a fixed income anymore, or I've got a fixed pension, but I'm no longer working. So I'm not earning the big bucks anymore, and I can't just go out and buy myself a big T-bone steak once a week. I may be a bit more frugal with my money, so I might not buy a luxury good, which, steak is fairly expensive, so I'm not going to buy a lot of red meat. Does that make sense too? Another thing that could affect demand of beef is these sort of trends. Okay, so I talked about health concerns, and one of the reasons people are having these health concerns is because of a lot of these trends and fads that have been coming out. So in recent years, there's been multiple diet trends and fads, and an increase in the options available to consumers. Western consumers are becoming increasingly health conscious and are looking for alternatives to red meat, avoiding the associated negative aspects such as high fat content. And there's also environmental reasons as well. But if you go onto Netflix, there's all of these different documentaries. So What the Health, Hungry for Change, Cowspiracy, Food Inc., Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. Okay, these are all fairly hard-hitting documentaries that we all have access to now. Basically, saying that red meat is not good for you and we should change. So this is affecting the demand for beef, particularly in Western culture. I said about environmental reasons. A recent study shows that red meat production impacts the environment more heavily than other livestock categories. the same number of calories of beef requires 28 times the land, 11 times the irrigation water, and produces 5 times the greenhouse gas emissions than pork or chicken. So even if you weren't really concerned about health reasons, a lot of people are being concerned about particularly methane production and climate change and the deforestation for cattle ranching, all the rest of it. So a lot of people are not eating beef because of the environmental impact it's having. Consumers are voicing their views through recent campaigns such as Meat Free Monday, an initiative to avoid eating meat each Monday for the benefit of the environment and for one's health. So if these trends are set to continue, then this is obviously going to affect the consumer's desire to purchase beef. Convenience. So, I'm not saying any of you guys are lazy, not at all, but as a species, we like things to be easy for us, okay? So consumers' needs are changing with regards to convenience foods, which may be purchased ready to eat at the supermarket. Demand for these foods is rising, whilst such red meat products are rare, as they are relatively low varieties of meat products in the convenient food industry. I'll explain that a bit better in a second. With 90% of the Australian population urbanised, 90% of Australians live in urban areas, to which demand for convenience food is positively correlated due to time-poor lifestyles. Essentially, people don't have time, and this is a significant risk to the red meat industry. Excuse me. So people don't have a lot of time, so they're buying these foods. Let me show you here. Yep. So I'll explain again. The last decade has seen an increasing number of dual income households due to a rise in gender equality in the workforce, increased day-to-day costs, and an increase in the cost of large purchases such as homes. Excuse me. Due to busier lifestyles. The time available to spend in the kitchen is further reducing as people look towards ready-to-eat meals. So why is this an issue specifically for beef? Well, if you go into your local Coles or Woolies next time, have a browse at the convenience food, you'll find it pretty difficult to find red meat products. Okay, we have a lot of chicken dishes, the majority of chicken, some lamb there, but it's actually really hard to find any sort of beef products, and they haven't really broke into that market. It's much easier to make a microwavable chicken meal than it is to make a beef chicken meal. A beef ready meal. Sorry, I'm falling apart. So if people are moving, I really just want to put a microwave meal in today, the likelihood is it's going to be a chicken meal, which is obviously going to impact the demand for beef in that way as well. And talked about international markets. I've already put this slide in here, but pork is by far the most popular meat in China, followed by poultry. But with this increased middle class, this is going to perhaps raise the demand for beef in Australia if people can afford this luxury item in the emerging economy of China. So a lot of people live in there. So that could affect the demand too. Okay, just a quick summary. We've got these new protein substitutes, so that these can all affect demand. Protein substitutes, aging population, diet trends and fads, environmental reasons, convenience, and international markets. All right, you may want to pause here, revise your notes, and then we'll move on.